Good evening, everyone, members of the tribunal. We are Group 6, and we are representing the university. And we have some strong points here, 5 strong points that prove that Dr. Rogue has breached the Jamaica's law. And as such, we are here to put forth these points. So we know of the case study. We have Dr. Rogue has falsified documents and do all, these things, these immoral things, these unethical things. And as such, that is why we are here today. First, we have point 1. We see where Dr. Rogue has falsified documentation. That's point 1. And this state that Dr. Rogue has broken the Jamaica law that speak against falsified documents. First, we have the Fraud Act that was established in 1963, which make it clear that this is an offense when you falsify or alter any document with the intention to deceive someone. Also, we have the Criminal Justice Administration Act that was established in 2014. It includes documents, falsification, and fraudulent perversion. The Corruption Perversion Act in 2000, it prohibits corrupt practices. And we have seen, because if you can go ahead and falsify your document, it is a corrupt practices. And also we have the Identity Theft Act that was established in 2014, specifically target identity theft and relative documents falsification. And we have seen that these are laws that Dr. Rogue has breached the Jamaican law, and we can't have that in the university. That is not what we stand for. And as such, these are the consequences when you breach the law. Is either you pay a fine, or you spend up to 10 years imprisonment, or you complete some community service. Next presenter.
Dr. Rogue engaged in misconduct, right, by falsifying his qualifications and other background information. And we believe that this kind of deception, it undermines integrity and the trust of this noble institution and is warranted for termination.
Dr. Rogue is a sex offender. Also, he was hired to teach ethics, yet his actions are unethical. Watching pornography at work is unethical, whether there is an approved policy or not. The company's computer should be used for the company's work. By viewing sites like these, Dr. Rogue could have caused spyware or malware to be downloaded on the company's computer.
Dr. Rogue's behavior violated the ethical standard that is expected by staff. Therefore, his behavior has compromised safety and security. Therefore, termination is therefore necessary to protect.
Dr. Rogue has a criminal record and outstanding charges related to fraud. which were not disclosed during the hiring process. With his background, the university poses a risk of damage to business reputation as well as its stockholders, which justifies termination. This stance for termination is supported by the Employment Termination and Redundancy Payment Act, which allows an employer to terminate an employee by contract with notice or without notice.
Most esteemed and learned tribunal members, I am Kevin Watson, and with us we have Ms. Tiana Card, King Counsel, Ms. Kadian Campbell, Ethics Compliance Defender, Mr. Philip Warren, Procedural Justice Specialist, Mrs. Susan Brandt, Academic Rights Protector, and Ms. Shanara Banner, Human Resource Advocate for Fair Practices. And we appear for Dr. Rogue in the matter of the University of Eastern Jamaica versus Dr. Rogue. The defense stands resolute in defending an esteemed educator whose contribution to the field of ethics in research and professional conduct for marine scientists have been invaluable. The charges brought against Dr. Rogue originated from an anonymous source, and they include falsification of credentials, the inappropriate viewing of explicit material, past criminal convictions, and unauthorized handling of student data. These accusations were brought forth without affording Dr. Rogue due process to respond adequately. However, the defense is here to present a compelling case that not only challenges these allegations, but also underscores the importance of due process and academic freedom. Dr. Rogue has dedicated his career to ethical education of future scientists. Despite the serious accusations, it is crucial to recognize that the procedural handling of these claims has been fundamentally flawed. Dr. Rogue was denied the opportunity to respond to the allegations in a fair and just manner, a right that is essential in any equitable investigation. Furthermore, the context and purpose of his research activities have been grossly misunderstood, and the lack of clarity regarding the university's information security policies has only compounded the issue. The defense will demonstrate that the accusations are misinterpreted and lack substantial evidence, and that Dr. Rogue's actions were in line with his academic and research responsibilities. Thank you. And we now move on to the next counsel for the defense, Ms. Tiana Carr.
Good day. Thank you, Mr. Watson. Good day to the tribunal team. I am Ms. Card, and I will be focusing on the point of improper recruitment process for Dr. Rogue. As you can see on the slide presented, the subtitle is Lack of Proper Inquiry During the Hiring Process. Now, Dr. Rogue, an employee at the UEJ, one would assume that he's a normal and registered employee. He clocked in and clocked out just like a regular worker for over a year. And a year later, it was brought to the manager's attention that Dr. Rogue was somehow a fraud, among other things. Now, everyone is wondering, how could this be? But the HR and recruitment officer of the university will have to answer. According to the OSC recruitment and selection policy, it is imperative that the HRM in the MDA is supposed to be equipped, and the recruitment process should go clear and concise for each participant. It is evident that the recruitment process was flawed and the proper procedures were not followed. It is imperative for every organization to follow the proper recruitment process according to their policies so that situations like these may not occur. On to the next slide. We have lack of proper onboarding. Now, Dr. Rogue asserts that he was not provided with the adequate onboarding, such as orientation or any training regarding the university's policies and procedures, as well as their expectation. The lack of induction and clear guidance resulted in misunderstanding and unintended violations, rendering it unjust to hold him solely liable for the ensuing circumstances. The university failed to provide sufficient support and clarification contributed significantly to the alleged infraction, and Dr. Rogue's action must be considered in light of this mitigating circumstance. So due to the university's vetting process, limited information on Dr. Rogue led them to believe unverified allegation from a stranger, despite Dr. Rogue being a reliable employee. Dr. Rogue indeed did follow all required procedure during the recruitment process that was given to him, and also he acted in good faith despite the flaw in the recruitment process.
Good night, everyone. Good afternoon. I am Defender Campbell, Ethics and Compliance Defender. Absence of signed security policy. No, Dr. Rogue was never exposed to the security policy. NC cannot be held accountable for violating such policy. The university failed to properly communicate the security policy to him, which is a breach of their legal obligations under Section 19 of the Data Protection Act and their internal procedures. By not informing Dr. Rogue of these critical policies, the university not only violated established protocols, but also compromised its ability to comply, making any enforcement against him legal and ethically questionable. This oversight places the responsibilities squarely on the institution, not Dr. Rogue.
Yes, good day, my esteemed tribunal members. I will explore on the allegations without proof, which it clearly states that it is really a systematic issue, an institutional flaw, and not individual. So the initial allegations against Dr. Rowe really relied on an anonymous tip. There was no concrete evidence supporting these claims, which raised questions about the legitimacy of the accusations. Now, Dr. Rogue was researching the dangers of videotaping minors and the impact that it has on the adult life. Now, in the Employment Termination and Redundancy Payment Act, Section 3, it states that an employer should ensure that all employees are given adequate notice of termination and that termination is handled in a just and equitable manner. Now, let's look at a few unprofessional and unjust things surrounding these allegations. One is that the legal counsel of the UEJ expressed shock that they were a policy, but that policy was not approved by the company board. Therefore, they has refused to represent the UAJ in this matter. Also, which is the questionable character of the anonymous caller. This caller hid himself under the guise of being anonymous, which begs the question of, is that caller credible? And also, if the claims are acted on and later found out to be untrue, how would that caller or the university be held accountable? Was the formal investigation legitimate to prove the accusations against Dr. O? In this case, it only points to a possible bias or personal vendetta against Dr. O in this matter, or it's just an institutional flaws. That's what it comes down to in conclusion. I thank you.
Dr. Rogue's case highlights a lack of due process. Despite being a tenured employee, he was neither afforded a fair hearing nor provided adequate notice of the allegations against him. As dictated by natural justice at common law. According to principles of natural justice, Dr. Rogue is entitled to a fair hearing, ensuring he is heard internally before any adverse decision is made. And this is also a recommendation of this learned tribunal, advocating for an internal process before escalation, which is guided by the Labor Relations and Industrial Dispute Act. Under this act, Part 3 of the Labor Relation Code outlines that disciplinary actions should be fair and reasonable, and employers should give employees a chance to respond to allegations, ensure the employee is aware of the charges, and also allow the employee to be represented if they so desire. Section 13 of the Charter of Fundamental Rights Act of 2011 guarantees fair and just treatment in employment disputes. Section 16 of that same act outlines the right to be informed of allegations, present a defense, and appeal decisions where necessary. Universities' failure to follow established protocols has resulted in a fundamentally flawed process. Despite no evidence to substantiate the claims, Dr. Rogue was not given an opportunity to disprove the allegations, which denied him due process. This lack of due process has compromised Dr. Rogue's rights and reputation. We urge this committee to consider the severity of this issue and the need for the university to revisit its handling of Dr. Rogue's case, ensuring fair procedures and justice. Fairness. Due process ensures employees are treated fairly and without bias, providing a level playing field for resolving disputes. Protection from arbitrary actions. Due process safeguards employees from arbitrary or unjustified actions by employers, such as wrongful termination, as in the case of Dr. Rowe, or disciplinary measures. Right to be heard. According to natural justice, every employee has a right to due process. The university failed to uphold this policy, denying Dr. Rowe the opportunity to present his side, respond to allegations, and provide evidence. Employees should be afforded these rights because they are an integral part of fair and just process. I now heed to When next, counsel.
Tribunal, great evening. I'm Suzanne Grant. Dr. Rogue was accused of watching pornographic films of what appeared to be underage girls. But this begs the question, what capacity is Dr. Rogue employed in at the university? Now, when Dr. Cantankerous claims that he saw Dr. Rogue watching what appeared to be pornographic, Dr. Rogue immediately placed what he was doing in the proper context. He informed Dr. Cantankerous that he was doing research on the dangers of videotaping minors and the impact on adult life. And this was in a bid to serve the university better. But Dr. Cantankerous, with his cantankerous nature, had to escalate the matter. The nature of Dr. Rogue's research was strictly academic, which he had maintained from the beginning, and this was a clear misunderstanding on the part of Dr. Cantankerous. Thank you.
Good night, everyone. Honorable Tribunal, Dr. Rogue has been a distinguished member of the university for many years, and with impeccable record, free of any complaint or misconduct. Throughout his tenure, he has demonstrated unwavering professionalism, earning the respect of his peers, students, and colleagues. There has never been any indication of inappropriate behavior or tendency towards misconduct. Dr. Rogue's work has always been conducted with the highest ethical standard, contributing positively to the academic community. Given his spotless record and consistent adherence to professional standard, it is clear that the allegations against him are inconsistent with his character. Thank you.
In conclusion, the defense has shown that Dr. Rogue was not given a fair opportunity to address the allegations against him before being terminated and brought before this very tribunal. The accusations of falsifying credentials, watching inappropriate content, and past fraudulent activities have been misinterpreted and lack the proper context necessary for fair judgment. Dr. Rogue's explanation regarding his research into the dangers of videotaping minors was clearly misunderstood, and the lack of a clear, signed information security policy further complicates this matter. Additionally, the legal counsel for the university refusal to represent the university due to procedural lapses underscores the need for a thorough and just review of this case. We sincerely urge this learned tribunal to consider the evidence presented, recognize the procedural shortcomings, and reinstate Dr. Rogue forthwith, allowing him to continue his valuable contributions to the academic community. This is the case for the defense. We thank you.